Hello and welcome back. This is our next sixth grade math video where we're going to be practicing converting fractions into decimals. Okay, here is our first one. We're going to practice converting 79 over 100 into a decimal. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to rewrite this where I have the numerator on top of or directly on top of the denominator. That's just easier for me to see. Now, when we type it, we have to write it with a slash like that. There's no other way for us to type it. So that's how it often looks. But for me, it's easier visually to see it where the numerator is directly on top of the denominator. Okay, so now the easiest fractions to turn to decimals are the ones that already have a denominator of 10 or 100 or 1000, because then that more easily correlates to a decimal place value. Since in this case, our denominator is 100, what I'm going to have to do is put a decimal and put out 2 lines to the hundredths place. Because the denominator is 100, that means the decimal has to go out to the hundredths place. So I know my decimal is going to be at least that long. Then what I can do is just take the numerator and fill in the blanks. So I would put the 9 here and the 7 here. Now, a lot of times you'll see a 0 in front if there are no ones, just as kind of a formality. We would write it as 0.79. I almost said 91. I don't know why I did that. So the final answer here would be 0.79. Okay, here's our next one. We're going to write 69 over 100 as a decimal. So again, first thing I want to check is to see if the denominator is a multiple of 10, like 10 or 100 or 1000, so it can more easily match up with the decimal place value. Since our denominator or bottom number is 100, I know that this decimal has to go to the hundredths place. So I'm going to put a dot and 2 lines, so I'm out to the hundredths place with my blank spaces. Then I can just take the numerator and fill in the blanks. So I could put the 9 here and the 6 here, and then fill this in with a 0 so it looks more formal. Our answer here would be 0.69. Here is our next one. We're going to write 1 over 10 as a decimal. So I'm going to start by writing 1 over 10. So we want to check and see if that denominator is a multiple of 10, which in this case it is. So that's going to make it easier for us to figure out which place value to put down. So I'm going to put a decimal, and I know because the denominator is 10 that it has to go to the 10th place. So I'm going to go ahead and put one blank there to make sure that I'm out to the 10th place. Then I'm just going to plop the numerator right here to fill in the blank, and then put a 0 in front to make it more formal. Our answer here would be 0.1. Okay, here's our next one. We're going to take 97 over 100 and write that as a decimal. The denominator is 100, and that's a multiple of a 10, so I can go ahead and write my decimal by putting a decimal in the tenths place and a hundredths place. So since that denominator is 100, I know the decimal has to go to the hundredths place. Then I can go ahead and use the 97 to fill in the blank. So I could put a 7 here and a 9 here, and then put a 0 in front to make it look more formalized. 0.97. Okay, here's our next one. We're going to write 11 over 20 as a decimal. So I chose this one so we could show you what it or how to convert it to a decimal when it does not have a multiple of 10 as a denominator. So I'm going to write it twice because I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do this. 11 over 20 and 11 over 20. The first way is we would convert this to an equivalent fraction that does have a multiple of 10 as a denominator. So let's start with 10. Now, although I could take 20 and divide it by 2 to get 10, I can't take 11 and divide it by 2 and get a whole number. So I'm going to have to increase this maybe to 100. I know if I were to multiply 20 times 5, I would get 100. So if I do the same thing to the top of that fraction to keep it equivalent, 11 times 5 is 55. Now I can rewrite this as a decimal by putting a decimal, going out to the hundredths place because the denominator is 100, and using 55 to fill in those blanks and put a 0 in front. So 11 over 20 is the same as 0.55 as a decimal. Here's the other way you can do it. You can take the top number in the numerator and divide it by the bottom number or the denominator. And if you're comfortable dividing with getting decimal answers, this might be the answer for you. So I'm going to start by putting a decimal after my 11 and a 0, just in case I need it. 20 does not fit into 1, so I put a 0 there. 20 does not fit into 11, so I put a 0 there. And here's my decimal right above where it is in the, or right in the answer space, right above where it is in the problem. Now 20 fits into 110 probably 5 times, because 5 times 20 is 100. So I'll go ahead and put that here, subtract that, then bring down or add and bring down a 0 to get 100 here. And 20 fits into 100 5 times, which is exactly 100. So now I have nothing left over. So either way, I end up with 0.55. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon.